Hello, my miraculous friend, and welcome to another episode of the Magnify Your Miracles podcast. This is Reverend Frances Baden, and I'm so grateful that we get to spend some time together helping you to magnify your miracles today. I have a wonderful guest that I'm excited to introduce you to, but before we do that, let's start the way I always like to start, by taking a few deep breaths together, just getting ourselves grounded and centered. If you are driving, please keep your eyes open, but you can always bring your awareness to your breath, allowing your mind to settle down just a little bit, increasing your receptivity, coming into this present moment. And knowing that whatever it is that you really need to hear, to learn, to be inspired about today, to help you move forward in your own growth and healing, to help you magnify your miracles, that's exactly what's going to be happening. So let's take one more deep breath in gratitude, and we can begin. All right, my friend, well, welcome back. And that particular introduction is such a great way to start this podcast episode, reducing the impact of stress. You all know, you've been listening to my podcast, and so you all know that I only ever bring on guests that I know and that I trust, that I know that they can help you with whatever it is that you need and can help you magnify your miracles. And today's guest is no exception to that. Let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Brad Hubbell, who's been helping me so much, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a second. Brad provides training in self-regulation, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that means, stress reduction, and emotional management through heart rhythm biofeedback, also known as HRV, to help his patients prevent, manage, and reverse the negative effects of stress and unhealthy behavior. Using the techniques and tools of the Institute of Heartmath, you can learn to shift to a positive emotional state and see the effects on the computer screen right before your eyes. The change in heart rate variability immediately triggers a healthy psychophysiologic response in your body that benefits the whole body, mind, and spirit. Blood pressure drops, stress hormones decrease, the immune system engages. You will feel balanced, calm, and in control. Brad is certified through the Institute of Heartmath. He's done several different certifications through them and has been practicing since 2005. So please help me welcome my guest, Brad Hubbell. Hi, Brad.
Hello there. Thank you very much for having me here.
I'm so excited to have you here because you've just been such a big light in my life and in the life of so many people. But before we do that, I'm going to ask you the question that I like to ask all of my guests here on the podcast, which is, what is your definition of a miracle, Brad? I know you've witnessed a lot of them.
Yes, I've actually seen some amazing things. It's still a mystery to me. It's basically life. I just watching a thunderstorm last night with the lightning going, is that what it took? What started all this? And I just think it's miraculous that all of the necessary goods came together to start all of this.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah, it's a strange trip, and it's just technologically speaking, it's been amazing the headway that we've made in the last 40 years from just a bunch of chemicals being pushed together by lightning, maybe. So yes, it's quite a remarkable story. Amazing.
I love it. So I want to let the listeners know that how you and I met and what's been happening. And then I would love for you to share a little bit more about your story, how you started doing this work. So I want to let everybody know that my doctor was taking excellent care of me, and people who are listening to the podcast are highly sensitive like I am. And a lot of us tend to have gut issues or insomnia or autoimmune or whatever it might be. And when I went to go see Dr. Warner, who Brad is married to, she said, okay, if you're having this gut stuff going on, I would really like you to go have a session with my husband and talk to him. And I said, about what? And she said, oh, it's about Heartmath. And I'm like, oh, I know Heartmath. I did Heartmath a long time ago. She's like, have you ever been trained in Heartmath? I'm like, well, no. She's like, I think you need to be trained. So I did, and I set up my appointment with you, Brad. And I have to say, the results from just the training that we had, it's like it's been so much more deep and so much more amazing and healing than anything I'd ever done before. So I'm really grateful that you're helping me. I've already referred a lot of people to you. But for people who don't know you and they're meeting you for the first time, how did you get started doing this work with Heartmath and how it's really impacted your life?
I'd say I did it. I started practicing this because I wanted to keep my marriage together. we weren't even married at the time. I knew we were going to get married, at least I thought. But it was, I was a very depressed, suicidally depressed person.
Wow.
Yeah. Hospitalized for suicide attempts on 3 different occasions. So I had been suffering from depression, panic attacks, rage attacks. My rage was just phenomenal. I was legendary in the town where I grew up for how angry I could get.
Wow.
And Wendy, my wife, drew my blood and checked a couple of my hormone levels that are stress-related hormones, and they were very much out of balance. And she said, you know, if we fix this problem, I think your depression will go away. I am a depressed personality type. You can't fix what I got without medication, was my response to her. And her response was, they put you in a box you can't see your way out of.
Mm.
So she pushed me to, she actually purchased the Heartmath system for me and gave it to me for my birthday. I put it shrink wrapped in a closet, didn't take it out for 1.5 years.
Yeah.
A 1.5 years later, I found myself at 7 o'clock in the morning, up for only 20 minutes, punching holes in the walls of our house out of anger because I had overscheduled my day. And that's when Wendy kind of drew the line and said, either get out or start practicing something to control your temper. And so I went back to Heartmath, opened it up, and got involved with it. I did not want to do it because I knew it would not work. I am a depressed personality type. You can't fix that without medication. So when I tried it, I called Heartmath that afternoon because I'll admit I felt a lot better right away. Temporary. And one of their people who was a scientist answered the phone, has since become one of my closest friends. And he said that if you do what you did this morning again this evening and do that twice a day for 30 days, you're going to feel transformed as a person. And in my mind, that's all I wanted to hear, because I knew that this would not work. But now I had an out, because if I did it for 30 days, nothing would work. Of course, it doesn't work.
Right.
And I would go back to my regular life and it wouldn't be interrupted.
Right.
So the list of things that started to change in my life almost immediately was remarkable. For one thing, it's been 20 years, almost 20 years now. And I have not had a single migraine headache since the day I started. I simply don't get headaches the way I used to. I suffered headaches from the time I was a young child.
Wow.
Nothing ever fixed them. My insomnia disappeared within 8 days. Acid reflux was gone within just a few days. I think the thing that still occupies my mind the most I pay attention to are my fingernails. I stopped biting my fingernails. And I'd been biting them since I was 8. I was naturally a very anxious person. And they started growing in. I did not make any effort to stop biting them. I just simply stopped biting them.
Wow.
Within 28 days, so I'm in that 30-day range, I had what I referred to as a Heartmath epiphany, that moment when you realize that, oh, damn it, they're right. I've changed. I just had an epiphany. My depression clearly was gone. It was something a huge stress that happened in my life that I was just capably handling with a smile on my face, not the way I used to be. 2 months later, I came off all the medication I was on, the Effexor and lorazepam for anxiety. It has been 19 years, 19 this June. So it's completely transformed my life. We have been able to monitor my blood levels to prove my depression does not exist. On 2 different occasions in the last 19 years, I have stopped practicing Heartmath, and both times my depression came back in 1.5 months. The first time I did it just because I did it. The second time I did it under more of a scientific analysis, watching my hormone levels of cortisol and DHEA, and they changed significantly as soon as I stopped practicing Heartmath. So clearly I'm the kind of person who needs to do this every day, but I'm finding it more and more difficult to find someone who doesn't have to practice this kind of thing. So,
yeah, that's amazing. Boy, that's a miracle story if ever I heard one. That's
yes,
truly miraculous.
For the big skeptic in me, it was quite a lesson learned.
Amazing. So not everybody might know what Heartmath is, and you talked, heart rate variability. Can you explain a little bit
Sure.
about that
Yeah.
Heartmath for people that might not know?
Yeah, sure. Heartmath is a company that makes products. They have two divisions. One is a marketing division. They sell stuff, their books, their gadgets, and that. The other one is a nonprofit organization called the Institute of Heartmath, and they're set up to launch projects around the world that look at lots of different things that are going on around and just do studies everywhere from the cost of insurance versus controlling your heart rate variability to sporting events, controlling your heart rate variability, your golf game, depression, anxiety, student scores, how fast you check out of a hospital after surgery, 50% faster for people who practice this on a regular basis. So it has significant savings and health concerns as well. What it is based on is knowledge that was relatively known about the turn of the 1900s. And then it was able to be proven in the 1930s and 40s. And now we have the technology to actually monitor it and see what's happening. And that is what your heart is doing inside of your body, depending on your emotional states. So your heart has inside of it a little neurological network. And this is the important scientific stuff. Your heart's neurological network contains approximately 44,000 neurons. Yes, you have brain cells inside of your heart. They are considered cousins to the ganglia inside of your brain. These 44,000 neurons, different from the brain in your head, they are enmeshed inside the flesh of the heart itself. So it's not like I could just cut the top of the heart off and dig down and pick up the brain of the heart. It's enmeshed inside all the muscle of the heart.
Right.
Now, the network itself, if you look at a map, you see all the roads coming into a major city. If you look at your heart, all those network pathways come together in the backside of the heart. There's a little leathery packet back there, and it hooks into your autonomic nervous system. And that part of your nervous system runs from the back of the heart directly up behind your head, penetrates inside of your brain, doesn't attach to the outside, it goes inside. In the lower back part of your brain, you have a little organ called the medulla, and its responsibility is to control your nervous system. That's what this heart network connects to. Medulla controls both branches of your nervous system. You have the sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight branch, and you have the parasympathetic system, which is what we use to calm ourselves down, digest food, et cetera, et cetera. Both of those branches are controlled by the medulla, but it is hooked into this very fast-acting activity inside of your heart. So another major feature of this network in the heart is that it behaves very differently depending on your emotional state. When you feel a negative emotion, it changes the thinking capability inside of your heart. And I'll take just a little quick segue. You've got a similar network like this in your gut, by the way, about 12,000 neurons. So you've got an amoeba-sized brain inside of your gut, a mouse-sized brain inside of your heart, and the monster in your cranium. So the network inside of the heart can change how it's thinking, how it's behaving in 5 billionths of a second when you feel a strong negative emotion. About 3 billionths of a second later, your medulla knows all about the fact that the heart has just changed how it's behaving. So it's a very, very fast acting. The reason for it, pretend for a moment, if you will, that you're driving down the road, the windows are down, music's up loud, top is back, you're having a great, glorious day, and then some guy cuts you off in traffic. As soon as that happens, you're going to jump into fear and anger. And the fear and anger change that heart rhythm, which tells your brain you need fight or flight activity. And the medulla begins to increase activity on that branch of your nervous system. So we see a number of different things happen. Keep this in mind because I'm going to refer to it in just a moment. Your heart begins to beat faster, your blood vessels constrict, your muscles tighten up, and your adrenal glands get pummeled to get adrenaline so you can do battle or run away from whatever's causing the problem. In this case, you're going to do both. You're going to steer your car in battle and slam on the brakes, but also try to run away from the possible accident. So you need all of that. The catch is, folks, is when you come home and describe your day to someone and say, I had a great day, but on the way home, I almost died. You're going to get about a 20 or 30% increase in your sympathetic activity simply because of the emotions associated with the event. So it's not full blown, but it's a little bit. So you end that story, you have dinner, life goes on. But I will tell you, that if you enter into a state where you're having consistent worry about potential car accidents or my kid doing drugs or whatever, you're going to have this constant barrage against your adrenal glands. You're going to have your heart in this constant, what we call an incoherent heart rhythm. It is normal. It's what most people are living in all the time. But if you can learn to control that rhythm, it will change your life. And I'm going to show you an example of some people who have done that. So I'm going to share out my screen.
Okay, just so for people who are listening to the podcast, if you want to see, I recommend you hop over to YouTube and check out this episode if you want to take a look at the graphics. But go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I'm going to describe this. What you're seeing or what you're listening to on my voice is the heart rate variability, HRV. I'll drop that term a lot during the next several minutes. This is the HRV of a woman who was at the time suffering from panic attacks, rage attacks, severe depression, insomnia, acid reflux, and migraine headaches. She has learned what I taught her and been practicing it for 2 weeks. The picture that if you're looking at it, you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, a fairly jagged, steady heartbeat. This woman has come in to see me for a follow-up at the end of a very long, difficult day. She's in a really rotten mood. Yeah. She says it's just a miserable day. Spent most of the day in feeling intolerant, impatient, angry, and frustrated. The big jump that you see on the left-hand side, you'll see her heartbeat all of a sudden skyrockets about 20 beats faster, and it gets very jagged in how it's changing speed. This is when I had just asked her simply to start thinking about her day at work. This is what her fear, anger, frustration all are reflected in her heartbeat. And you see a very jagged heartbeat. For those of you who are listening, there appears to be an arrhythmia on the screen. This is early on, right after she started feeling the anger that she'd been remembering all day long. Later on, about a minute later, you see her heart actually go into AFib. She is sitting relaxed in a chair. It looks like she's doing jumping jacks. She's sitting composed in a chair, relaxed, but angry.
Right.
And then the right-hand side of the screen, you see something completely different, a very smooth sine curve pattern that indicates that she is practicing the technique that I had just asked her to start practicing. So this is what it looks like after 2 weeks, a nice smooth pattern in our heart rhythm. It's very simple to do. It's just very important for people to learn to put themselves in this state frequently throughout the day. So it has a huge impact on your life. So that's what we're looking for. This is referred to as heart rate variability. It represents, what you're seeing is a sine curve on the screen. The height of the sine curve is basically controlled by your age and your physical fitness. The younger you are, the taller that wave is. The taller that wave is, the longer you tend to live and the healthier you tend to be. It shrinks in people as you age. By the time you hit my age, I'm 68. By the time you hit that point, usually your wave is a tiny little 3 or 4 beat per minute difference in your heartbeat versus what you'd see in a 16-year-old might be a 30 or 40 beat per minute difference in our heartbeat. However, it is possible to grow your heart rate variability, and that's what I and my wife are doing. We both have the variability of people who are 20 or 30 years younger than we are. We practice this skill every single day, and we've gotten pretty good at just maintaining it, no matter what's going on around us. So what it involves is breath work, which I imagine most of you who are listening are familiar with. But more importantly, and this is where we address the hormones, to get your hormone shift so your cortisol settles down, your DHEA goes up, which is what you want, you have to add positive emotion to this. If you folks are meditating without positive emotion, I would highly suggest that you try meditating with positive emotion and see the impact. It does make a big difference. Again, Heartmath makes tools where you can monitor this. I have software where I can actually pull people's sessions in and critique them. But this is basically what we're looking for, you being able to do with not much training.
So it's one of the things that I was fascinated with is that you had said to me, yeah, you can meditate, because, you know, I lived in a spiritual community. I meditated for a long time. You're like, you can be meditating, but without that emotional component, it's not going to help heal what's going on with the adrenals, which no one has ever told me that. I was like, wow, that's fascinating. So yeah, that piece of it is really important.
Yes, and it's interesting because I had been practicing transcendental meditation for over 20 years. And it wasn't really off and on. It was a very steady practice because I believed in meditation. The meditation of TM, transcendental meditation, made me relaxed, but none of that relieved my depression. I mean, I might have been in the 20 minutes that I would practice, I might not be depressed during that time period, but I would say I felt oblivious, observing, but oblivious kind of thing. But when I bumped into Heartmath, they held the gun to my head, it all started to change because I thought joy was missing from my life because I just had a shitty life, excuse the language. And it turns out that you can bring joy into your life when you want to. And I discovered that I can manifest these feelings. I can regulate my own feelings. I don't have to wait for them to happen. I can be angry. I used to suffer from anger, but I discovered that I get listened to a lot more clearly when I'm more direct with people because it comes from my heart, where the anger is just coming out of rage. The directness is care. It's love, is care. It's directness. It's coming from my heart.
Yeah.
It's how I actually feel. And the two things result in completely different heart rate variabilities. It's quite remarkable. So I have learned to regulate my emotions. I practice regulating them every day so I can feel how I want to feel when I want to feel it.
So right now on the planet, I think stress is at an all-time high. Stress is also kind of a catch-all for people. And I think especially for highly sensitive people, this is why I really wanted to have you on the podcast, is we can feel really tossed about by our emotions. We can feel really like our circumstances are beyond our control and we're kind of getting, it's kind of like a little boat that's not anchored into anything. And in my experience, being coached by you, that the Heartmath has been able to, even when I've had a bad day, I can start doing my Heartmath and I'm like, oh, there it is. There's that pocket of joy. Like, oh, there it is. And I think it's so important for right now with everything that's going on. People have been telling me, Brad, just I'm overwhelmed. This is the thing I hear from my clients over and over and over again is I feel overwhelmed. So how can people do something like Heartmath without them being like, it's another thing I have to do, and I'm overwhelmed?
Yeah. Well, the thing I guess I'll admit that's clearly a problem. The good news is a lot of people who already meditate or have a yoga practice or something similar to that, they substitute that time. So in my case, the time I spent doing TM, I spent doing Heartmath instead, with the knowing in 30 days I'd go back to TM, right? Because the Heartmath wouldn't work. So that is clearly a problem. But I will tell you that with practice like this, Heartmath has techniques to help you build up your tolerance. And by tolerance, I don't mean like more inanimate objects as much as I mean other people. Okay. So learning to be accepting of compassionate and tolerant for other people. It's a skill. It's not something that you just hope you're going to be born with. It's a skill you can build on, and you get really, really good at doing it. And because of that, as you increase tolerance, your sensitivity tends to diminish. It's clearly what I've noticed in my case. I've become a much more tolerant, at ease person. And I find that the demand for it within myself is pretty high given these last several years. It's been a pretty crazy ride. So I think it's necessary. I will also tell you that Heartmath released a book called Transforming Stress. If anybody wants a copy, send me they released it as PDF format for COVID. I'll send you a copy of it if you like. But their second release came out as a book called Transforming Anxiety. And that book is primarily, people say, what's the difference between stress and anxiety? That book focuses on overcare. Overcare versus true care. And I'm going to guess here that many of the people who are watching this podcast are overcarers. And that turns out from the studies, if you look at the science, studies are showing it is the leading cause of anxiety in this country. Caring for everybody else and not taking time to care for yourself. That is
Yep.
overcare.
That's it.
Right.
And which book was that? That's the one that I need. Transforming what? Anxiety?
Yes, anxiety.
Yeah, it's the one I need. Yep.
Just
And so many of us, that's the case. It's like we feel so deeply, we care so deeply, but then cross that boundary. So
yeah.
thank you. Love that.
Yeah. So the image I use when I teach that skill to people is put yourself in front of the mirror in your bedroom, strip off all your clothes and look at yourself and be willing to say you can accept that. There's always room for growth, but you want to be tolerant of yourself as well as for others. And so this skill helps you be tolerant of others, but also teaches you tolerance of yourself, self-love. We don't all need it, but many of us do. If you don't need it, you should consider running for public office.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, so that's my say on that. And just to step back a moment, I don't want to disrespect anybody on the meditation side of this.
Oh, no.
But clearly, I have discovered, and the science is supporting this, that you need loving kindness, mindfulness, Buddha meditation, where your bliss, joy, you need to practice something where you can turn on. I feel out of control. I'm going to feel in control, and just do it because you practiced it yesterday when you were in control. You know how it feels now. And so you can do these things and know you're actually feeling it, because the Heartmath system is actually monitoring your heartbeat the way I showed you. They give you feedback as to what you're doing, which is, I find like having a little coach on my emotions. It's very nice to have.
It's amazing. So how do you work with people when you work with people? Tell us what it's like to have someone help us with our heart rate variability.
Well, oddly enough, I work in a medical practice, but I've been doing it for 20 years. And so I've expanded to several doctors at this point, as well as people just calling me up. I have a lot of people who come see me, they do this, things change for them, they like it, they tell their partner says, I got to try this. And so I see partners. So yeah, I have golfers who come see me to get their putt to go better, because golf is such an emotional head game and heart game. And so we do it for performance. I have people coming in for high blood pressure. If you have an adrenal issue, if you don't have an adrenal issue, you're probably not here. Almost everybody in this country, everybody in the world has an adrenal issue going on because of all the stress that we're going through. Your cortisol level is too high, causing you to have interrupted sleep about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Your DHE level is too low, which can lead to depression, anxiety, anger, stuff like that. So Heartmath helps to change those hormones. It can take several weeks of doing that, but once it happens, it's easy to keep it going.
Beautiful.
So yeah, we cover a lot of territory with a lot of different people. Performance aspect, health aspects, creativity. Just got off the phone a while ago with someone who's looking to enhance their creativity with their writing. Writer's block. It's great for getting your creativity going.
Yeah, amazing. Were there some things that you wanted to show us, or did you want to take us through a Heartmath session, or what would you like to do?
Sure, I can walk you through a couple of things. One of the things that almost every person in the world is suffering from is adrenal fatigue.
Okay.
I'll run you through a slideshow that I show to doctors and hospital staff and that kind of stuff. And it's a bit technical, but I'll push you through the salient points, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
But I want people who are having sleep issues. If you're waking up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, have troubles going back to sleep, or if you're waking up tired and not refreshed, most likely you have some kind of an adrenal issue going on. And I'm just going to walk you through what the hormones are, how to test for it, and what to expect if you were to start doing something to control it.
Great. Yeah.
So I can get this up and running.
So again, if people want to see these slides, you can hop over to YouTube to take a look at them. But in the meantime, Brad's going to be telling us what's on the slides.
Exactly. So let's see if I can get a slideshow going here. So this is an introduction to your adrenal glands. You've got 2 adrenal glands. They're situated over your kidneys on either side of your backbone, just above your buttocks. They release several different kinds of hormones. The most popular one, of course, is adrenaline, but they also release cortisol and DHEA, dehydroepiandrosterone. The 2 of those, cortisol and DHEA, allow you to make a great assessment as to how worn out someone is adrenally and due to stress. That stress, by the way, can be pain. It can be divorce. It can be grief. It could be a difficult boss to work with.
Yeah.
It could be unruly children. It could be too many children. It could be too few children.
Yeah, could be watching the news.
Right. Yeah. So basically, we're going to talk a little bit about the stress hormones. Cortisol is basically, it helps a lot with your inflammatory response. It also helps control pain when you're under a lot of stress. So it tends to shut down pain receptors so the tiger can't, you don't feel the pain when it claws at your legs while you're running away. But the thing to take away from here is it's an alertness hormone. That's the last one down here. So it's an alertness hormone. The more of it you have, the more alert you tend to be. Okay. Very important drug and hormone. And it is secreted by your adrenal glands when your brain detects that your heart is in that jagged state. Okay. It detects a jagged state because the tiger's after you or the car's cutting you off. So it gives you that burst of energy. It allows you to take photographs practically with your brain, which are incorrect photographs, unfortunately, because that's why we make such terrible witnesses. You get increased immunity in your system, but a lowering of pain receptors. So it's an important hormone. Remember, though, what's key is it's an alertness hormone.
Right.
Okay. The things that if you get too much of it, it can lead to two big things we see. The ones at the bottom, increased abdominal fat, i.e. a circle of fat, a ring of fat around your gut. It looks like you've got big love handles. It has a big impact on processing of glucose in your body. So we frequently can increase of cortisol will lead to an onset of diabetes. And it's also famous, I don't see it on this list. It's all famous for waking people up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and you can't go back to sleep, or at least causing restless sleep.
Right.
Now, the second hormone we mentioned is the best feel-good hormone we know of. It's dehydroepiandrosterone, obviously abbreviated to DHEA. It also comes out of your adrenal glands. We tend to have, it's a happiness drug. Okay, the more of it you have, the happier you tend to feel. The more content you tend to be, and the more in control you tend to feel. So as it gets low in the human body, your sense of control diminishes, which means you feel panic. As it gets lower, because it's a contentment hormone, you start seeing mild depression in people. As it gets very low, where mine used to be, we'll see major depression, panic attacks, rage attacks. Oh, I do want to come back to that just for, you're born with very high levels. And understand that it's a contentment hormone, so most babies are happy babies. It plummets until you're 5, increases until you're 28, and then diminishes as you age. To the time you hit my age, it's very low levels. It's a contentment hormone.
Okay.
It's an anti-aging hormone. The more of it you have, the longer you live. But by the time you hit 60, most people have very little of it. Where it comes from is when you feel loved. I hope most of you have had an opportunity to fall in love with someone. And those first few weeks when you're on that amazing high, that's your DHEA level. Your body loves DHEA when you're in love. It just throws it all over the place. You'll find it everywhere.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And then reality sets in. My wife found out that I was depressed. Big deal. So next thing you know, things start to fall a little south.
Right.
DHEA, that kind of a hormone. You want to have lots of it. If you look at people who are in their 90s and golfing every day, they've got lots of DHEA.
Awesome.
So it's a wonderful hormone. You want lots of it. So the last statement there is, in a balanced state, your mood is stable. This is what it feels like. You know what it feels like? If you go on vacation for 3 or 4 days, it's that 3rd or 4th day of a vacation where you wake up and you feel wonderful. You have a rich sense of contentment. That's what it feels like to have a normal sense of DHEA. My happiness is people crazy. I'm just going to zip through some of this. I like this slide for some reason. What causes your hormones to go out of balance? Okay, we're going to skip through to get to a little bit more about so the previous slides basically conclude that stress has an impact on your life. It's usually a negative emotion, and the negative emotion increases your incoherent heart rate variability and triggers more sympathetic nervous system activity. So that causes a hormonal, neurological, and immunological events in your body. This is what your heart tends to look like when you're doing it. The upper picture you can see in the red is a very, very jagged screen. It shows an incoherent heart rhythm. The heart is changing speed. As it's doing so, it's very jagged. This comes from a normal state of frustration. We see it in every human being. The bottom picture, the one in the blue, shows us a very smooth rhythmic change to this person's heartbeat. And this is what we tend to see when people feel an inner sense of appreciation. It's odd. We also see this in couples who love each other, who fall asleep together. Not only do their hearts fall into that pattern, but they fall into the pattern and synchronize with each other. The same thing happens with a boy and his dog. Put a dog on a couch and then the boy sit at the other end and love the dog from 6 feet away. And both their hearts will enter into this pattern. And then after about a minute, synchronize with each other. It's
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So this basically, I teach people how to do that. I want to talk a little bit more about, it's a great slide. This is the adrenal fatigue slide right there, where stress starts, you think you can handle it, you start to fade, you stand up because you're really going to kind of counteract this. And then you realize you just don't have the energy and down you go. It's kind of a gruesome slide. When a stress starts in your life, it causes much more negative emotion, which increases your heart rate variability in coherence. When that happens, your adrenals get much more stimulation and they start putting out two hormones, the cortisol and DHEA hormones. Cortisol is an alertness hormone, so the more of it you have, the more alert you tend to feel. DHEA is a contentment hormone. The more of that, the more content you feel, the more in control you feel. So when you're under stress for about 6 months, the cortisol goes up to keep you more alert, to look out for more tigers coming out of the woods. The DHEA goes up so you don't panic. So very few people notice any symptoms at this point. The symptoms actually show up at the second stage of this, what we call the resistant stage of adrenal fatigue, where your adrenals get too tired to do both of these functions at the same time. So they cut back on the hormone that would save you the most and focus on the hormone that will save you short term, and that's the cortisol. When cortisol, our alertness hormone, gets up that high, we start seeing the symptoms of it. And the major symptom is sleeplessness or poor sleep. And also in about 2/3 of the people, a rapid weight gain right around the belly. About a third of people actually lose weight when this happens because they stop eating or they slow down their eating. We mentioned cortisol is an alertness hormone. So normal cortisol level has your cortisol in the alertness territory above this bar that you see here on the screen. I have a bar going straight across the screen and it looks like a two-wave sine curve going across the screen. Cortisol is more, you have more of it in your body naturally during the daytime, so it keeps you alert. This is based on the rising and setting of the sun that we have evolved with for thousands and thousands of years. By 6 o'clock in the evening, though, your cortisol has actually settled down a little bit and it crosses a threshold between how alert you feel and how drowsy you feel. By 8 o'clock in the evening, it crosses a threshold at about 8 micrograms per deciliter in your bloodstream. And at that point, if you're sleeping, this is very important, 3 things. You have to have a normal, balanced level of cortisol. Good luck with that. You have to be sleeping and it has to be about 10 o'clock at night. So when those 3 things happen, your body, triggered by cortisol itself, will release a whole bunch of immunoglobulins that start cleaning up toxic poisons, inflammation, Alzheimer's disease, arthritis, COVID, bad bacteria, all this stuff gets cleaned up. This is a 4-hour-long process triggered by cortisol descending beneath 8 micrograms per deciliter. 2 o'clock in the morning, cortisol has bottomed out and starts the next wave. About 2 o'clock in the morning, it rises above the 8 microgram level and it causes your immune system to go back to rest. But for 4 hours, your immune system's been very busy. For all those of you who are achy, if I took a poll, a large percentage of you would be going to sleep after 10 o'clock at night. And that's because your body doesn't have a chance to clean up the inflammation, or the other part of you might have too much cortisol, which also inhibits that process. It starts it, but only when it's at the right levels. So what happens when your cortisol level elevates? This curve elevates above the screen, above the line. At nighttime, it gets down low enough that you get drowsy and fall asleep. But by 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning on the screen, you can clearly see your cortisol levels up in the alertness territory. And you're feeling very alert. Many people just toss and turn. Some people wake up like I did, fully alert, panicky. and couldn't go
Yeah.
back to sleep, thinking like
Yeah.
someone or something. So what you're missing there is obviously the very important restorative sleep process, and you're missing the inflammation cleanup process. It keeps you out of your dream state, where you happen to have lots of wonderful chemicals released in your dream state into your brain that make you feel better. You don't get much of that either. So this is the weight gain slide. I'm going to skip by it just to alleviate that. And back to our friendly slide that we left a little while ago. These are the symptoms we tend to see after about 9 months to a year, maybe 2 years. It depends on how much the stress is. We see it in 3 weeks with soldiers in the front line of the battle. But these are, we get chronic fatigue begins. We talked about the sleep. I mentioned the weight gain, skip the slide, sorry. The increased awareness of pain is because you're now missing the inflammation cleanup process, so your body aches more and you hurt. You notice that the weather is shifting when the rain's coming and when it's leaving. Do that for 2 to 5 years, and the inflammation buildup in your body leads to a lot more serious autoimmune problems. So this is one of the major reasons we want you to learn to balance your DHEA and your cortisol. We want you to sleep better is what it comes down to.
Wow. And get to bed before 10. You know, it's interesting because it's one of the key things in Ayurveda is get to bed before 10. And now I know why. It's like, oh, all that really important stuff is going on during that time period. That's amazing. Well, thank you. And let's see if we can give people an experience. What do you say? You want to give them an experience?
Favorite things to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I walk we'll have the experience. It'll take about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah, that's great.
For those of you who are listening, I've arranged to have a metronome. He said that. I want to make sure I get rid of the intervals on this thing. Sorry.
So what we're going to be doing is, for those of you who have never seen or experienced Heartmath, you're basically going to be breathing at the same time that there is something that is encouraging you to inhale and exhale and taking deeper breaths. And he's going to be guiding us through that. And so it's kind of a little bit of a biofeedback with breathing and some other wonderful things involved.
So what I'll do is I'll coach you into it. Understand that with training, you will learn to coach yourself into this state whenever you want. Traffic jams, your environment is constantly manipulating your emotions. I'm going to teach you to regulate your own emotions. So traffic jams won't have an effect on you. People being angry with you, you'll be able to tolerate it and feel compassion instead. It's a skill, but I'll coach you into it this first time. For those of you who are only listening, I have a metronome I'm going to kick on that will breathe. It'll hit a marker. You'll hear a ding, a bell go every 5 seconds. So you're going to be reversing your breath. Those of you who are watching the screen, you will see a breathing pacer set at 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. I'm going to ask you to follow that, and I'll guide you through a very simple Heartmath technique. We'll go about 5 minutes and see how you feel.
All right.
Okay. So let's share my screen out one more time over here. And I have to hit the metronome. I got to time this right. So those of you who are watching, it's pretty obvious. You're exhaling at this point, inhaling now. I think my beep is off a little bit.
So this is what we're doing to help you have an experience of coherence.
So those of you listening, follow the dinging tone. I hope you can hear it. Those of you who are watching, follow the bouncing ball on the screen. You probably have regulated your breath to this by this point. As you're doing this, I want you to bring your inner attention to the area of your heart. Focus inside around your heart. Imagine now you can draw your breath into your heart. This is referred to as heart-focused breathing. Very simple little technique. I do it off and on. I've done it several times while I've been in this meeting. So it's just simple heart-focused breathing. Almost like you can swirl your breath through your heart becomes your lungs. There are some extraordinary people who like to imagine that their breath are waves upon a beach. Your heart is the beach, your breath is the waves. And now you can shift the focus on your heart. I'm going to ask you to bring to mind a time in your life you felt wonderful. It could be a time in your life you felt exhilarated, uplifted, joyful, loving, or successful, appreciated, competent, confident. Bring those feelings in. Walk slowly through what you're remembering. Really embrace the sensations. If you lose focus at all, bring your attention back into the area around your heart, feeling your breath moving freely in and out through your heart. As you inhale and exhale, and then move back into the emotional part. Connect with, you can even make stuff up. Watch your dream come true and live in that space for a little while. Bring someone with you who you love. Again, any disruption to your focus on your feelings, just step back into that safe place, that heart of yours. Inside your chest, just bring yourself into that cozy, comfy feeling. Breathe as if you're breathing into the heart for a breath or two. And when you're ready, if you want to, step into an emotional state. High energy emotion, low energy emotion. It's mid-afternoon, you might want to go with higher stuff. Joy, happiness, dancing. When you're ready, if your eyes are open, adjust yourself, open your eyes, step back into your current reality here. So, I teach people to do that with their eyes open. Yeah, we start off with eyes closed, but I want you to be able to do this in the midst of stress. And in the midst of stress, most people's eyes are open. So we practice with eyes closed, we practice with eyes open, we practice having other people guide us into it, we practice guiding ourselves into it. And eventually you get up off the mat and you carry this with you if you're meditating. I do this in my car, so hopefully I'm not meditating and my eyes are open. But yes, it's a lovely experience. So I hope that was good. That is what Heartmath calls the quick coherence technique. It involves heart-focused breathing and then a step into a positive emotion. I practice lots when I'm not stressed, so I'm capable of just turning into that state whenever I want to. Okay?
Yeah, thank you so much. So I'm just curious for the listeners, did you feel anything? Did you notice anything? You might not notice a big shift right away, but that's one of the reasons it's like an app on your phone that you can actually see the sensor giving you the feedback, is that it's letting you know when the shift has happened. Because sometimes I can't tell, but when I'm getting the feedback, I'm like, oh, there it is. And what I love about it is I'm so connected with the chakras. And so I can feel at the energy level like, oh, this is my heart chakra also opening. It's my physical heart, but I can feel the impact in the whole chest area of like, oh, that's that light feeling when my heart is open and receptive. So beautiful, Brad.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So if people want to know more about working with you, the best way to connect with you, is that through email?
I would say probably through email. They can certainly visit the medical practice's website at Medicine in Balance. That's 3 words, medicine in like thin or pin and balance.com. Wendy is considered one of the top functional medicine docs. If you're a functional medicine doc, you studied under her, let's put it that way. So she was like one of the beginners. And so I worked there with a acupuncturist and an osteopath, health coach, stuff like that. Easiest way to reach me is just Brad at medicineinbalance.com. It's Brad, B-R-A-D. Check out the website if you're interested in it. Anyone who sends me an email, just let me know you listened in. I'm happy to send you a copy of the PDF. It's about 120 pages of 5 different techniques you can practice with Heartmath. It gives you a full breakdown of the science, talks about cortisol and DHEA. This is all stuff that is critical to many people. They just don't know about.
Beautiful. So I will put that in the show notes so that you have it. You can reach him at medicineinbalance.com, and the email is brad at medicineinbalance.com. And you can get that amazing book, Transforming Stress, which is going to really, really, really help you. Thank you so much, Brad. I love being in your energy, and I know your commitment to people and to this planet is just so deep and profound, and I'm really grateful for everything that you share. So thank you for being here on our show with us. I really appreciate it.
You're very kind. I will tell you that when I teach a group, the atmosphere in the room changes. You can clearly, when everybody's in that state that we were all just in several minutes ago, you can sense the difference. It's as if someone dialed down the gravity level by about 1/10. You just feel this uplifting sensation, and everyone's like looking around going, what the heck is going on in here? And it's a lovely feeling to have many people do it together, but it's really healthy for you as an individual. So thank you very much for having me here. I've really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. All right, my friends. So if you did enjoy this episode, please feel free to share it with your friends, your family. You can share it on social media. Let people know who you know might be interested in reducing the stress in their lives and the impact of that stress. If you're able to, we would love for you to give us a review on Apple Podcasts. That really helps us out a lot. And remember, as always, the key to magnifying your miracles is to know that your miracle is already here. Thank you, my friend. Bye-bye.